How's it going, everyone? And welcome back. Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. I know some people link this day with bad luck and superstitions and all that, but for me personally, I link it with my all-time favorite horror movie franchise named Friday the 13th. Shocking, isn't it?
For as long as I can remember, I've always been attached to Jason Voorhees. Whether it's that iconic look of the hockey mask and machete or the tragic events that made him what he is, I could never explain it, but it's both levels of terrifying and fascinating. Most other people I know, whether it be friends and family, prefer somebody like Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers as slasher villains, but Jason will always be top of the list for me. As I got older, I'd become more familiar with the series, watching the movies and such, and when the announcement of a new Friday the 13th game was released to the masses, I nearly lost it. Before that, we had the NES game and even a guest spot in MKX, but having a modern game with the Friday the 13th name behind it was a treat for sure. Also, after 6 years since the reboot happened, the fans needed some new blood to keep their appetites quenched.
Now that I've given you my history with the series, let me give you some insight on the game itself.
Gun Media, the people behind the game, were originally making a project known as Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp. It was an isometric horror multiplayer game that, if it was well received, would lead to more games in completely new settings. Catching wind of this, Friday creator Sean S. Cunningham called the devs for a meeting and offered them the license for them to use freely. So after teaming up with Ilphonic and a very successful Kickstarter campaign, Friday the 13th the game would release to mixed reactions, to say the least.
Don't worry, there will be more to go over as we continue along.
For this video, I'm sticking with the PlayStation 4 version. I do own the game on the Switch also, but there's not much that's really distinct about it compared to the other platforms. And also, I don't own a Switch right now. Full warning, if you're somewhat squeamish in any way, shape, or form, I recommend clicking off this video and watching something else.
With that out of the way, let's grab a machete, throw on a hockey mask, which is over there, and dive straight into the game.
Since there's no real story to speak of, we can just dive straight into gameplay. Also, since most of the online components have been shut down at this point, it's going to be the Jason show for most of the video. It is possible to still play as the counselors, but it requires a private lobby and friends to play with.
Well, I might as well see if anyone's available. Hey guys, wanna play Friday the 13th? Figures. Well, guess I'm going solo.
Sorry if you were looking forward to seeing what I think about the team gameplay, but let's get into what the J-Man can do. So to attack you press R2 with L2 acting as your grab. In a grab you can initiate a kill with environmental objects or by using whatever's equipped with the face buttons. You also have other tools you can use at your disposal like throwing knives, which can help but I find myself not hitting much, or bear traps, which I never use. As the match goes on, you'll be able to use power-ups that might put the odds more in your favor. First up is the morph ability, which allows you to teleport to any point on the map. Unless you know the layout, it can be tough recognizing exactly where you've been planted. Next is Sense, which helps detect counselors, and this is especially useful when they're inside cabins. Shift can allow you to cover a short distance, which can be great when you're catching up to your prey. Lastly is Stalk, which essentially turns Jason into a ninja, and I rarely use this. They each have a cooldown, so you can't spam them, which I don't mind at all. You also have a rage mechanic that fills up throughout the match and is essentially a boost, which is neat. In short, Jason is fun to play as, but it takes a while to get used to. But once you master his playstyle, you'll practically be unstoppable like the big guy himself.
Let's look at the other stuff, or what's left of it anyway.
So I already mentioned private matches you can do with your friends, but if you are a lonely fuck like me, you can play against bots across all maps. You can only play as Jason though, so if you were hoping to hone your skills as a useless teenager, sorry to say you'll be disappointed. If you're looking for an actual single player mode, they got you covered with the Jason challenges, which basically has you killing teens in varied and unique ways with many tasks for you to complete. The game essentially becomes a Hitman clone, and these are actually really fun to play. Getting all the skulls feels immensely satisfying, and they're worth playing just for the death animations alone.
The fact that they brought back Kane Hodder to do this still blows my mind.
You can also explore the virtual cabin, which I didn't really do, but it's a loving tribute to the series. I wanted to mention the Tommy and Pamela tapes just because I find them interesting and add some fascinating lore to both characters. There's no way of unlocking them since you can only find them randomly in online matches. Thankfully you can listen to them on YouTube, so check them out there. There's DLC in the form of cosmetics for the counselors and extra kills for certain Jason skins. Yeah, there are plenty of Jason looks to choose from, which includes most of his movie designs from Part 2 all the way to Jason Goes to Hell. They also include his outfit from the NES game, and they even created an original design made by Tom Savini himself. You can only get this if you pre-ordered from Kickstarter, but still awesome nonetheless. My favorite to use is Part 6, with Retro Jason being in second place. Graphics are passable. It's also a crowdfunded game, so you can't really give it too much shit. Harry Manfredini was brought back to compose the music, and this is as authentic as you can get. It sounds exactly like an early Friday movie, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I know this video has been pretty bare bones so far, so let me explain why that is.
Shortly after the tease of Uber Jason coming to the game, Victor Miller, the screenwriter for the first movie, filed a lawsuit against Cunningham and Horror Inc. for the rights and ownership of characters and concepts like Pamela and young Jason. Since he had no involvement in adult Jason or anything that took place afterwards, matters became complicated fast and turned into a web of delays, appeals, and other circumstances which maybe has come to a close? I'm not sure. There are people that have talked about this better than I ever could, so check those videos out for full context. With the lawsuit, that meant development for the game halted, and Gun Media had to move on to other projects like Predator Hunting Grounds and the upcoming Texas Chainsaw Massacre game.
It's a shame what happened, seeing as how this game was on top of the world for a time, and to see it just hit a brick wall and die off is kind of upsetting, honestly. Well, let me give you my final thoughts and go out in a glorious fashion.
Friday the 13th, the game, is an entertaining multiplayer experience and an enormous love letter to the franchise, all wrapped nicely in a little bow. Just like with AVGN Adventures, it's hard to recommend this game unless you either love the movies or you're looking for a new game to play with your friends. Unless you like doing challenges as Jason or playing against bots, you're not really going to get much mileage out of this game in the state that it's in now. There has been modding projects like Reslash and F13 Definitive Edition keeping the game alive, but for console players, you're just left in the dust. Even with that, it is really fun playing as a mass murdering killing machine. You can find this game for real cheap nowadays, but even with that, I'd wait for a sale to drop.
You know, a part of me is really hoping we get another game in the near future. With the new announcement of a Crystal Lake TV show and the possibility of a new movie happening, we can only wish for a brighter tomorrow. Hey, I made it to the end with nothing bad happening to me. Next review is definitely going to be a superhero game for sure, because I need to step away and take a break from all the special reviews I've been doing. But until next time, hope you all have a great night. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care of yourselves. Anybody else hear that?